Right guys, we are now moving on to the fun bit, the design. Bart is here to remind you this is an outline. We are using line drawing. There is no need to shade or colour. We'll move on to that in task 3. Now, you know I've drawn quite a few different food items through this project. And by far my favourite, I think it's clear, was drawing the prawn. So, I was going to work into a pasta dish. I'd done my research, but now I've come up with an even better idea. You are allowed to change and modify your idea, but at this stage you need to make a commitment. Now I've done some research. Here is some reference material. So I'm moving on to a ramen style noodle dish. I'm doing this because I didn't particularly enjoy drawing the butterfly pasta, and I quite like the idea of the pattern noodles. Now I have used some real reference material here. This is a photograph of a plate of food versus an illustration. See the difference? That person's drawing below is a drawing and already stylized, whereas this is good reference material. Now looking at these dishes, I've had to really think about the elements I like. Look at these chili peppers, so they look great fun to draw in cross section, a bit like the tomato I guess in the previous task. Really like those shapes. I certainly want to draw one of these eggs, but I'm going to do a much more round yolk because the yolk seems to be a bit broken down there. The long battens of carrot look quite nice. I'm not having a chicken, I'm having prawns, as you know. So I'm looking at real reference material, and I've started to make a list of some of the things I might want to do. Some of these things I already have on my previous drawing sheets, and some of them I'm going to have to now go and reference. These are the tracings I made using the window as a light box. They are on normal photocopy or printer paper, the thin paper. Now I need to think about the scale of the dish I'm going to draw around. I'm not going to do a three-hand circle. I've been to my kitchen and I've got some items that I could draw around. You can see that prawn is going to be filling the whole plate. It would be a giant king prawn, and I don't really want that because I want to put all these other ingredients into my design. So I have found a nice side plate which is just about the size I wanted. Thanks Jamie Oliver. And all I need to do is get my pencil, changing hands with my phone, and draw around it. The key is when you move away the plate that you have a nice clean outline. It's not a wobbly edge, and it's a neat plate shape to work in as a clear template. I had to do it guys. I've looked at my list and I realised I needed to draw some more ingredients. So off I've been on the internet to find the ingredients, and I've been drawing a few more items. Some of the things I might not include in my final design, but now I've got loads of options. Need to think about scale though. So there's no point drawing a teeny weeny little egg beside a massive prawn. You need to think about the relative scale of the objects. So bear that in mind when you're using your reference material. Now we're thinking about the design. So the key ingredients in my dish are these two great big prawns. It might be that I decide I want another prawn and I will draw it, or I might want to reorientate it, or it might be that the end piece goes over the bowl and I need to modify my actual drawing. I could just chop that off and then do something different. So first of all, I'm just going to position them in different places. Now, if you're using digital design processes, not for this task, but in the future, this is something you can do very easily in Photoshop, moving things around and deciding where you like something. But obviously, we're doing this old school. We're doing it through collage or tracing elements to put them into the drawing. I like collage because I quite like being able to move things around and look at options, whereas once I've traced it onto an actual design, I've committed to it. We're asking you to do at least 2 different designs, but that is because we want you to explore and play with design, not just accept the first thing that comes along. It isn't about assessing 2 different designs within the outcome and within this task. Now I'm going to have some fun. I've looked at the noodles in these dishes, and these ones are actually in a kind of band that runs together. Those are rice noodles. These ones are in a bit more jumbly heap, like a bowl of spaghetti. So I have made a contraption. Here it is. I've got a group of pencils that I found around the house. I've taped them together with masking tape. It'll come off quite easily. And what I'm going to explore is if I can draw, this is the first time I've done it, a kind of parallel line. I think that second pencil isn't going down hard enough. Now I'm going to look at and analyse what I've actually done. Can you see how some of the lines are heavier and lighter? The spacing of them is a little bit clumpy. It's probably not the easiest thing to do with a phone in my hand, but it's definitely good fun. Now this works with the kind of dish that I'm doing. It doesn't make a lot of sense when they overlap into this section here, but I've got some ideas now. I'm going to play with this a little bit more. I've got some that have worked quite well, that are quite smooth. There's little lines missing in, but what I would do is I would just work them in. After all, this is a drawing. It isn't about using gimmicks. It's about learning technique. So I can just work in and fill in the blanks. I do not need to redo it with my pencil stuck together. Now, if I look at them all, this one here, this point where there's been a kink in it, does not look right. So my idea here is I abandon that one and I use the ones that have worked well. Right, so I've got my previously traced components. I've now got my noodles. I've done them on tracing paper so that I can arrange them to the edge of the dish. If they don't quite meet the edge or if they go over the top, I'll sort that out later by connecting the lines or rubbing bits out or cutting the sections off as I'm going to collage them on. I've decided I want it at the top like a great wave. I'm now going to reintroduce the prawns. Now I can rethink this design. I don't have to have it as I did before. That's the beauty of it. We're exploring design options. So I'll keep trying things out. This is where collage lends itself perfectly to this process. Maybe bring that one in here. No, I don't like it upside down. I could overlap it there. I could work the egg into the space. I could put it into this shape so it looks like the noodles are wrapping around. I could explore it over the top here. There are lots of options and I'm going to continue to play with my design. I'm not going to show you any more. What I'd like you to do is now go away and develop your own designs, thinking about options, looking back at your own reference material, coming up with ideas, not being afraid to go back and do some drawing because you've done some super drawings up to this point. I had a great conversation this morning with Year 8 about small plates and tapas. So come up with lots of ideas. Show us your ideas. We want to see your invention.